Honestly, I still can't believe I did that. I must have been crazy. Hello, hello. So, in the fall of 2015, I was a junior in college. College meaning university. We use both words the same way in America. And junior meaning I was in my third year. One day, in the fall of 2015, I was talking to one of my professors. He told me about a program in Taiwan at the Mandarin Training Center and how great it was for speeding up your Chinese language learning. I thought that was cool, but Taiwan? At that time, I probably could not have pointed to Taiwan on a map, but he told me all these great things about it, and I became more interested. I thought,
Okay, going there might be pretty cool.
but I was still doubtful, still too scared to consider it an option. Then he said that one of my classmates was going. And then I thought,
So I won't have to go alone.
and that's when I decided to go to Taiwan. I still cannot believe I did all of that. I do not have wanderlust. Wanderlust is the intense desire to travel, to see new things. I don't have that. I like my quiet little life with my cat and my dog. I like my adventures in books, but somehow in February 2016, I ended up on a plane to Taiwan. I arrived around midnight, and that's when I started to panic because I faced my very first problem. My Chinese sucked. For context, when I arrived in Taiwan, I had been studying Chinese for 2.5 years, 5 semesters, 3 to 4 hours a week. I even had a Chinese roommate. But when I landed in Taiwan, I got into a taxi to go to my apartment, and I couldn't understand a word the taxi driver said to me. The only thing I could say was, I don't understand. 我听不懂. I don't understand. Ugh. I started my classes at the Mandarin Training Center a few days later after passing out at the National Palace Museum. And when you arrive at the Mandarin Training Center, you're given a placement assessment. It's not like an exam. You sit with a teacher and you speak, if you can. Then you read a little bit, and the teacher puts you in a class that matches your current level. My reading was much better than my speaking because I had only learned Chinese in school. I shouldn't have been so embarrassed about it, really. At that time, I thought, because I had studied Chinese for several years, I would be in a higher class. But the class I went to, my classmates had only been studying Chinese for 3 months. So 2.5 years learning Chinese at an American university equaled roughly 3 months at the Mandarin Training Center. But their speaking and listening was so much better. I couldn't speak or understand much of anything. So my classmates had to use English to speak to me during our breaks. My classmates were really nice. We were 5 students total, and we were all from different countries. One girl was from Japan, one girl was from Spain, one girl was from Korea, and the one guy was from Australia. They were all really cool and very nice. I hope they're doing well now. The Mandarin Training Center taught Chinese very differently from my American university. There were 3 major differences: time in class, teaching language, and the amount of homework. First, time in class. In America, I had about 3 hours of Chinese class every week, 50 minutes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. In Taiwan, I had 3 hours of class every day, Monday through Friday. 3 hours a week in America, 15 hours a week in Taiwan. The second difference was the teaching language. In America, my Chinese professors were Chinese from China, not America, but they taught us Chinese using mostly English. In Taiwan, there was 0 English in the classroom. The only time I spoke English at school in Taiwan was during short breaks. Outside of class in Taiwan, I spoke mostly English with my roommate, but we also used some Chinese as well, especially as my Chinese started to improve. My American roommate was better at Chinese than I was, so we were not in the same class in Taiwan. She was in a higher class. The other major difference was the amount of homework. Oh my God, that was brutal. In America, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on Chinese homework. I didn't have a lot of homework to do, but homework in Taiwan, oh my God. And it was extra difficult for me because I had to change from reading and writing simplified characters to traditional characters because we learned simplified characters in America, but they use traditional characters in Taiwan. So that was an additional layer of difficulty for me. That first month was rough. The first month is what we call a steep learning curve. Steep. I had to learn a lot very quickly to catch up to my classmates and to keep up with the class. I hear some thunder rumbling. There was so much to learn. But after the first month, I started noticing a difference. I started noticing I was able to understand a lot more. I was able to start using Chinese in my daily life, and talking to locals became possible. I was able to order food, order coffee, ask questions in shops. And when I finally finished my course in Taiwan, I was able to chat with a couple who owned a restaurant near my apartment, who made amazing fried rice. And I was even able to ask them for a picture together. Learning Chinese in Taiwan was hard. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done academically. I flew thousands of miles to another country where I didn't speak the language. I studied the language like a full-time job. I traveled around Taiwan. I even traveled to Hong Kong for a weekend and tried new foods, met new people, went new places. It was very difficult, but a lot of fun. And I'd love to go back there one day. When I came back from Taiwan, I felt like I could do anything. I did something really hard, so my daily life in America felt so easy. My one regret, the one thing I wish I could change, when I came back to America, my Chinese learning stopped. I was so tired. My brain was overwhelmed. I needed a break. I thought I would take a short break, but so I stopped learning Chinese and I haven't really gone back. I regret it because if I had stayed consistent, practiced a little bit every day, I wouldn't have lost all the progress I made. I worked really hard to make that progress, and I let it all go because I was tired. Breaks are important. Rest is important, but always go back again. Don't give up just because you're tired. Don't do what I did. Don't give up, period. You can do hard things. You can do it.